So the other day I was watching an animatic, Say My Name. There are several versions of this animatic, I'll be showing them on screen. I'll be kind enough to include a link down below in the description. I eventually had the throwaway thought a fan could take this song and dub it over an animatic of perhaps Charlie and Alistar from Has Been Hotel. On paper I thought that Beetlejuice and Alistar have a lot in common. They're two character archetypes that conventionally should not have gotten over with the fans. Beetlejuice is a gross, smelly demon who preys on a suicidal girl's insecurities. He's loud, obnoxious, old, and creepy. That shouldn't work. Let's break down why it does. Mostly because I thought it would be interesting to see what you would have to do to have this win over with fans. Number 1, make the supporting cast less interesting. And we're going to be using the Beetlejuice play in case you couldn't tell, because Beetlejuice is the most warped in that version. Adam and Barbara, for those of you who don't know or forgot, are two ghosts who haunt the Dietz's household. They're pretty boring characters, at least at start, or at least they start out that way. If you like Adam and Barbara, I'm not trying to pick a fight with you, please don't get sidetracked. Charles Dietz and Delia, aka Lydia's parents, aren't exactly memorable either. Charles Dietz works in real estate and is out in the country because he's suffering from burnout or something along those lines. Delia is a failed artist, and Lydia is the only other real interesting character, at least in the mortal realm. Lydia is young, suicidal because of her mother's passing and the lack of her father's focus on her and her mom. And yes, you might point out, wow, this plot sounds highly emotionally manipulative. If you've ever known someone who said, "I'm going to kill myself, pay attention to me." But with all that going on, besides old BJ, it's not hard to make out Lydia as one of the main stars of the play. But let's move on. Number 2, turn your protagonist into a walking deus ex machina. Wait, that can't be right. If you look at Beetlejuice or Has Been Hotel, Charlie and Lydia are pretty respectively boned, dead in their tracks, stuck with their respective demon. They are both preyed upon by an opportunistic, literal predator, as one could argue, at least at those characters' lowest points. You might ask yourself, if you're a fan of either of these shows, wow, is there something wrong with me for liking one of or both of these characters, those being Beetlejuice and Alistar? No. They were designed to get over with the audience, because they had little to no competition. Yes, I'm sure some of you will be quick to point out that Has Been Hotel has other characters of interest, arguably just for example Angel Dust, and if nothing else you can't accuse that character of being boring. However, he's not exactly useful.
What can you do, my effeminate fellow?
I can suck your dick.
Ha! No.
He doesn't fix problems, he creates them. And I'm not saying you can't like him as a character, but it's not exactly a character who's likely to offer a solution to a problem. Either Beetlejuice or Alistar can pretty much solve any problem with a literal snap of the fingers. Beetlejuice shows up to offer to murder Lydia's dad when she is a complete emotional wreck. Alistar shows up when Charlie's hotel is failing. He shows up to spruce up the place as a literal gag. I'm going to do this because it amuses me, or arguably because he has much more sinister plans. Respectively, there doesn't seem to be, relatively speaking, all that much in their way from achieving what either of these characters want. They presumably need the blessing of their prey, those being Lydia and Charlie respectively, to proceed, and do their best to beguile and woo their targets into accepting their help. Number 3, actively making the character a obvious bad idea to the audience, but just charming enough for everyone to wink at the absurdity of it all. Adam and Barbara, if nothing else, were good people. They don't know everything going on, and they're every bit at a loss as the audience is going in. If not immediately, sooner than later they understand that Beetlejuice isn't worth his trouble. In Has Been Hotel, Vaggie, that's Charlie's girlfriend, knows instantly that Alistar isn't someone that they need or want. I'd argue it might even have been more fun to see Alistar being shifty than being told that right off the bat. Alistar is referred to as a Lord of Hell, and most of his build-up is done in flashbacks. But I guess being able to getting away with being told that someone is trouble as opposed to showing it is breaking a conventional rule. That rule being show don't tell. The material doesn't have to follow, apparently. Conversely, Lydia Dietz seems to understand that Beetlejuice is a bad idea, all on her own. It's kind of impressive how incompetent Beetlejuice is for all his powers, that he is unable to properly get what he wants until there's no other option but to deal with him, and for Lydia to accept his help. I guess that leads us to our last rule, number 4. Don't give the cast any other choice. Beetlejuice, like Alistar, literally allows the plot to move forward. Charlie either takes Alistar's help or the hotel closes. And the show's dead on arrival. Charlie did try to reach out to her parents for help presumably, but they were nowhere to be found. Likewise, Lydia attempted to use Adam and Barbara to get her dad's respect, attention, fear, or whatever you want to call it. But when that goes wrong, yes, I'm aware I'm skimming on the details on how, Lydia, against her better judgment to turn to someone that, against all common sense, she knows better than to trust. Both cases are pretty obvious. Telegraphing an obvious problem might not always a death knell to a piece of content or story, again, typically doesn't help endear that piece of content to its audience, but it's impossible to argue the results. There are oodles of failed movies, shows, books, and the like that flew in the face of conventional wisdom, whether it be making things a little too obvious, certain characters a little too overpowered, or even making certain characters a little too one-note or one-dimensional. So is there a boilerplate to making an exception to the rule? If it was that easy to follow, there wouldn't be any rules to begin with. See you next time.